5 states, so I live in Dallas. So thank you so much for being here.
You're going to speak too, right?
Second.
We are really glad to welcome all of you to what we are discovering is the beginning of a series of conversations, and it's quite timely in light of the fact that I think we all are aware of the mental health crisis that exists in our country that has been exacerbated, if you please, by COVID-19 exposing in a fresh way COVID-19. And so I'm excited that we have so many amazing, gifted, brilliant persons who are here, and we are proud to welcome to Dallas-Fort Worth two phenomenal people, and we're going to present them a little bit later on, but I want you to immediately welcome the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. He is a history maker and a game changer. When you read his bio, it is absolutely uplifting and inspiring because of all that he has done in such a short period of time. And so it's quite appropriate that he gives leadership to the Department of Health and Human Services. And so I'd like for you to welcome our Secretary, Javier Becerra. And because when you want to do something big, especially when you are attacking a huge problem, one mind is great, a dynamic duo is better, and so better than Batman and Robin, we have not only the secretary here, but we have the assistant secretary, another game-changing sister who we are so proud of. And so please welcome Assistant Secretary Delphin Rittman. We're so glad to have you with us on this day. Now, I welcome all of you, and there are a whole lot of big ballers and shot callers in the audience, and so if I were to introduce all of you, the secretary would miss his plane, and so I don't want him to miss his plane, but know that your presence here means a whole lot, and more than that, your work in this area. You were here because you were doing the work and you recognize that we find ourselves in a crisis at this time. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and get ready to have a conversation that I believe is quite fitting and timely. Last week I received a message, and I even read up on it, Commissioner, and it said that researchers have found that increased stressors like economic hardship and systemic racism play a significant role for black children and can lead to the development of mental health issues as they age. This came out last week. And here we are in Dallas. And let's be real honest. 2018, the Urban Institute ranked Dallas dead last when it comes to economic inclusion out of 274 cities in this country. Not Detroit, not Philadelphia, Dallas. The very next year, Dallas ranked number 1 in child poverty. When you marry economic exclusion with child poverty, mental health, according to the study released last week, systemic racism plays a significant role for black children and can lead to the development of mental health issues as they age. No wonder J. Cole put it like this way: there's all types of trauma from drama that children normally see. Type of that normally would call for therapy, but you know just how it goes in our community. Keep it inside, it don't matter how hard it be. Fast forward, them kids is grown and they blowing trees. So in light of the study that came out last week, in light of what we have discovered by way of what's happening in Dallas, Texas, we are in a state of emergency, and I think it is very fitting that the administration is seen fit to say, let's come to Dallas. And so we welcome you and we thank you for being here. I'm also excited because we have a panel that's ready to rock and roll. They're ready to engage in some truth telling. And so in light of that, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start the conversation. And I'm going to ask Mr. Secretary, first of all, let me just start with you, because last year you initiated something quite profound, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Talk to us about how the addition of the English text service, how that has impacted what's going on.
Pastor Haynes, first let me say thank you to you and to all the members of the congregation that let us come, and to all the leaders who have taken the time to be with us. We thank you for that. I'm here, Dr. Delphin Rittman is here because we learned very early on, actually something that we probably both knew from the get-go, and that is that for so many families that have been left behind or neglected, when you say there's a service that's available for them, more often than not, it never reaches them. And so rather than wait till you came to us, we're going to come to you. And that's why we are here today at Friendship West, because we want you to know that we are coming where you are, because we want you to know that we want to be where you are. We don't expect you to have to come to us to get the services that you pay for, that you are entitled to as a resident, as a citizen of this great country. And so what I will tell you we did with 988 is something very similar. Rather than wait for folks to come to us and shout out, I'm in pain, I'm getting ready to do the wrong thing when it comes to my life, we went to where folks were. And the way we did that is we made it easier for you to get that service. It used to be before July 16, 2022, that if you wanted to reach out to somebody, there were what they call these lifelines that you could call throughout the country, various phone numbers. That you dial the 10-digit number, area code and phone number, and you might be able to get through to somebody, just depending on how good that regional call center was. That changed. Congress gave us the authority and some money to make it different. So today, you don't have to worry about a 10-digit number. Today, you just dial 3 digits, 988, you get through. But to Pastor Haynes' point, there are a lot of folks, and I suspect many of you here, who rather than get on a phone and call, you get on a phone and text. And so we established a text feature. So now today you see a lot of young people who are actually reaching out for help before they go the wrong way in that road, and they're asking for service, for attention. And that text feature, and I'm going to let Dr. Delphin Rittman tell you actual numbers, we have hit it out of the park. The number of young people who are reaching out because of that text feature, and there's a chat feature as well, is phenomenal. But it also says something very scary, just how many people are hurting. Right. And so we want to reach out, And we're going to continue to do that because we know that for so many communities, you never had anybody come to your door and say, how can we help? And when they did, you couldn't trust them. We want you to know that when we come with professionals, when we come with real services and resources because we want to get it done. But we want to get it done the way you need it to be done because you know your community, you know your home better than we do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Delphin Rittman, he said he's going to pass the ball to you, so what's up?
Yes, and I also want to say first, thank you so much for the invitation to be here. It's so wonderful to see also so many young folks in the audience. Really, really appreciate your presence and participation today. Yeah. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to hearing from you all as well, because it helps us as we're thinking about programs and thinking about our work. It gives us ideas and helps us to know sort of what's working, what's not working. As the Secretary mentioned, 988 is something that we really wanted to put together to meet individuals, to meet you all sort of where you're at in terms of what your needs are. And what we're finding is that, thankfully, I feel heartened by the fact that people are, young people in particular, are reaching out. And so our text function, what we've found is that when we look at, it started in July 2022. So when we look from July to December and compare this July to December to last year, July to December, we see an increase. It's huge, but we see an increase by 1,125 additional texts came in. So that is, many thousands of individuals that are reaching out by text to let us know that they're struggling. And so what I'm heartened by is that people feel comfortable, and that's what we want. We want people to be able to feel comfortable reaching out by text or even by chat. You can also chat 988lifeline.org and get connected with a trained counselor who's there to listen and help you sort of work through whatever the challenge is. And so that's one resource that we wanted to share to let folks know that, we're here. If you're struggling, you don't have to struggle alone. And that help and support is available, and recovery is real and recovery is possible.
Thank you very much. I want to ask this. Thank you. In light of what we opened up the conversation with, my question now is, we see the relationship between race and poverty and mental health. And so my question is, what can HHS do in order to address what's happening in our communities, especially when it's reinforced by poverty? It's reinforced by poverty, but then when you combine, again, race with poverty, the mental stress on that community is real. And so a lot of times we engage in, across the board, in general solutions. I think we need some targeted solutions. What kind of targeted solutions are you looking at to address, again, race and poverty at that intersection?
Why don't I start and then let Dr. Delphin Rittman close us out on that one. There are two things. And the first thing, though, is you got to recognize that in our system of government, the federal government is the least attached to what goes on day to day, because it's got to worry about 50 states versus the local county government, even the state government. The federal government doesn't have jurisdiction to run healthcare. The U.S. Constitution gave that to the states. So what we do is we offer money to try to get states to do something different or better. And so Dr. Delphin Rittman's shop offers resources to try to help direct states to do something in the mental health space. So now, having said that, now let me tell you what we do. What we find is that the difficulty for a lot of poor communities, and that usually means communities of color, is that on top of maybe there being a mental health situation, at the same time, that person then has to worry about, well, how am I going to buy the food to feed the family? Or how am I going to help my family member, my kids, do the homework? And before you know it, it's not just the mental health condition, it's the stresses of not having enough. And it's the stress of not being able to provide everything, which just compounds the mental tension that makes the mental health situation even worse. What happens is for families that are in lower income neighborhoods where you haven't had the access to the kind of services you need, it just builds and builds and builds. So what can we do? It goes to what I said earlier. We're not going to wait for you to break. We're going to go to you really early. And let me show you what we did in the context of just basic health care so you understand. When I came into the position as secretary in March, April of 2021, I started getting information on where we were on COVID, on vaccinations and all the rest. Already after about 5 months of the vaccines, because they came out at the beginning of 2021, remember? We were already starting to see what we always see in this country. Growing disparity. White adults, by May or so, June of 2021, about 2/3 had already gotten that first vaccine. Black America, less than 50%. You're already seeing the divergence. Latinos, 50%. So when I came in, I said, wait a minute, we can't wait for folks to find out that these are free and that they're safe. We got to go to where folks are. And so that's what we did. We went and we did churches. We did barbershops. We went everywhere we thought that folks would regularly go, where trusted voices were. By January of 2022, 90% of white adults had gotten at least one vaccination. 90% of African Americans had gotten a vaccination. 90% of Latino Americans had gotten a vaccination. Same with Asian Americans, same with Native Americans. We had erased the disparity that occurred. We didn't just erase it by chance. It wasn't luck. It's like we went into communities where folks don't usually go, and we offered the real service, the vaccine for free. We did the same thing with Obamacare, the health insurance program for folks who can't afford regular insurance, who don't qualify because they're not poor enough to get Medicaid. We did the same thing. And guess what? Obamacare, we found that last year, we saw a 50% increase in the number of Black Americans who signed up for Obamacare. We saw a 54% increase in the number of Latino Americans who signed up for Obamacare. Today, we are a record number of Americans who have health care insurance through Obamacare, mostly because Black and brown communities came forward because we went where they were. Mental health, we got to do the same thing. We can't wait for folks to break. We got to go where folks are and find out the services they need, and then partner with the state and local county health departments and say, we hear this, we see this, we will give you some money if you do it this way. And that's what we intend to do, and we hope, and sometimes we wonder if some states want to actually invite us or want to partner with us, but we're going to go every way we can to try to work with folks.
Thank you. We welcome you. Doc?
Yeah, and so, I'll share a specific model that does just that. We have a model we called our Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinics. The thing I love about this model is it's truly about meeting people where they are. Services are available. We have, first of all, over 500 of them across the country, and they will serve an individual regardless of their insurance status. It also includes case management work, so helping people get connected to things like employment or housing or some of those other things that we see that might correlate or go along with an individual who might be living in poverty. But also provides mental health services and connection to primary care or physical health services. And so the CCBHC model is one that we truly see at the community level is about increasing access, helping people to connect and get the support that they need as it relates to mental health, but then also providing connection to other community-based services and supports, again, whether it be housing, employment, whatever is needed in terms of that person's life space.
Thank you very much. What I want to do is make sure that in this conversation, we hear from those who are directly impacted. And so that's why we were intentional about having students, young men on this panel. Commissioner Price, you sent me a letter, and pastors, I guess about a year ago, talking about the suicide rate of young Black males in Dallas. So what I wanted to do was make sure that our young brothers got the mic today because I want us to hear from them. And so I want to introduce to you some amazing young men who I am just wonderfully proud of. And I'm going to ask them, and here's the question as I get ready to introduce you, and that is, talk to us about the mental health educational services you received in high school, college, etc., during your educational process. We're glad to have with us Dylan Henderson. Dylan Henderson is currently attending the University of St. Augustine for health sciences. He is about to earn a doctorate in physical therapy. He's in his first year of his doctorate program. Right, yeah. Some of y'all ain't impressed with nothing. You got your doctorate yet? So Dylan, we welcome you. Also, we're glad to have Christopher Stevenson, proud native of Dallas. Christopher is a senior at the University of North Texas, Dallas. He's graduating this May with a bachelor's degree in administration, majoring in business management and human resources. So proud to have him. We have Daniel Goolsby here. Daniel, where's Daniel? So glad to have Dan in the house. Daniel was born in Japan, but he grew up here in Dallas, graduated from Texas A&M in May of 2022, and so we're very proud of him. Also, Joshua Manning. Where's Josh? Joshua Manning. Joshua. Where's Joshua? There you go, Josh. Okay, I can't see you. Love the hair, man. I wish I had it. Joshua is a 19-year-old sophomore at Texas Southern University. His favorite sports team is the Philadelphia Eagles. Had to say that since they in the bowl. And so we want to welcome Caleb Hobbs. Where's Caleb? Caleb. Glad to have Caleb Hobbs in the house. 17-year-old junior at DeSoto High School. Enrolled in the early college program and wants to go to Prairie View A&M. Prairie View A&M. So we're so glad to have, did I get all of them? All right. So Russ, tell us what kind of education did you receive, or what kind of mental health education did you receive, high school, college? What kind did you receive?
Again, my name is Christopher Stevenson. I would like to thank Pastor Haynes for inviting me, as well as Pastor Magruder. Thank you for having me. In regards of my mental health knowledge and things of that nature, what I received, I really didn't get any. I was actually suicidal my senior year of high school, and nobody knew, right? It only took me to go to my principal, and that's when I was able to get help. But I've been feeling that way since I was 16, 17 years old, right? So when people say, oh, mental health is important, mental health needs to be addressed, I never did get that. So it's hard for me to really understand where are my feelings normal. You know, sometimes, you know, we're African Americans, you know, we're minorities. So when we show emotion, it's deemed as a threat. It's deemed as monstrous, things of that nature. So that's kind of how I feel in that regard, that I didn't really get the support that I needed.
Wow, man, thank you for your honesty. That's a lot of courage. We appreciate you. Brothers, anyone else? Dylan.
I can say in college, I didn't know much about mental health. You know, they didn't really emphasize it I went to Texas A&M Commerce in East Texas. They didn't emphasize it until a shooting happened. And we were at a party, and the person came in through the back and killed like 3 people, I believe. And when we of course it got out the next day because it was over the weekend. And now they were making it a priority, but they didn't tell us what it was. It was basically like going in blind, not knowing what to expect, but they're just telling, oh, go to counseling, go here. So I don't think it was never really a priority to us in college, but I would say I was very limitless when it came to mental health education.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else want to answer? Please, yeah.
Once again, I'm sorry, everyone. Once again, my name is Daniel Goolsby. Pastor Haynes, Pastor Magruder, thank you guys for having me here. I'm going to start off with high school. High school, it was pretty much non-existent. you either were in the classroom, you were playing a sport, or you were dealing with after-school activities, and that was about it. We didn't really hear much about mental health or emotional health, so we kind of just went through the motions. And personally, I was somebody that I lost a lot of people. I lost grandmothers, I lost uncles, people got sick, passed away, and I kind of got into this place of where I just learned to be able to perform in the midst of chaos. And I kind of took that to college with me. I went to Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a large campus, and they make it important when they're talking about emotional health or mental health because people are still committing suicides, especially students. When you have people that are 18 and 19 that have all these things going on in their lives, they really don't know how to handle that. And especially being a young black man and a minority, going to a campus to where I experienced a culture shock, that was a lot of stress on me. And already dealing with the things I was already going through with the people that I lost. So they have a hotline, they have CAPS, which is where you can go and actually go for counseling. So I actually took the time, I would say, in my senior year to start going to counseling, and it made me wish I did it sooner. Because people were trying to help. People were having, I would say, some of these meetings, some of these seminars, I actually sit down and talk to people and say, well, why do you think people aren't getting counseling? What do you think the issue is? How come people that look like you aren't really talking to anybody? What's going on? So to be able to find counselors that look like you and would be able to talk to you and relate to you, that's where you actually see these positive trends and people feeling like that they matter. So it was a complete difference between high school and college. Because college, they understand that the enormous pressure a lot of kids are under, especially with having to do well in the classroom. Maybe you play a sport, maybe you're doing something else important, or maybe you're also taking care of your family. And people don't know this because people aren't trying to reach out and trying to learn, well, what's going on in your life? Are you okay? Because even with me as somebody who has been a part of different black organizations, I've actually had the honors to be somebody's mentor. And being able to sit down and talk to young black men where they come from all different types of backgrounds where maybe somebody was just raised by a mother. Maybe somebody was just raised by a father. And now they can finally sit down and share something that deep with other people. But you have to actually allow people to feel welcome and actually allow people to feel safe. Because when people don't feel safe, people don't talk, people don't speak, people don't say anything, and they just deal with it. That's why you have people committing suicide. That's why you have people turning to drugs and alcohol, because they don't know where else to go. And it starts with the youth. People say, young people, they're the future, but how are they the future if they can't even get to their future because they're dying? So that's just my piece.
That's real. That's real.
Real talk. Real talk. Real talk.
Again, my name is Caleb Hobbs. Appreciate you, Pastor Haynes. Appreciate you, Pastor Magruder. I've been at this church ever since I was I'd say 8 years old, 7 years old. So I've been raised by this church. But I got some statistics here. The suicide rate among males in 2020 was 4 times higher than the rate among females. Males make up 49% of the population, but nearly 80% of suicide. That's actual data that we have in this world. We live in a very cruel world that you have to understand that you got to protect your heart. Your heart is the biggest thing that you have. And once you actually sit down and you understand that, and you start reading your Bible, young fellas, you will actually realize what life has to offer. And that's all I have to say.
Wow. Wow. 100%. Josh?
For me, during high school, we had a suicide prevention week, but nobody really cared about it, honestly, because, we would have, a presentation, but when they talked about it, you could tell they were just doing their job. They didn't really care about what they were really saying. So when you don't care about what you're saying, how you expect us to care about what you're saying? You're not even passionate about it. So it was really non-existent. We didn't really have a mental health for with anything in high school or middle school or anything like that, honestly.
Wow, thank you so much. So what I want to do now is ask, because the beautiful thing is we have professionals who are on stage as a part of this discussion, and I really would like for you to respond to what you've heard so far. And so I want to just basically welcome Seema. Seema, please don't be mad at me for not pronouncing your last name, okay? It's Ladjeverdian.
Ladjeverdian.
Thank you. And so Seema, of course, is Regional Director for the U.S. Department of Human Services, and she's an activist. She does a whole lot, and so she gives leadership. Region 6 is based in Dallas, Texas, serves Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas, as well as 68 federally recognized tribal nations. We thank you for that. She's a lawyer, a mother of two, a breast cancer survivor. Wow. So thank you so much. We're so glad to have you, and we thank you for your work. Also, the Reverend Dr. Q English, who is director of the Center for Faith-Based Neighborhood Partnerships, Intergovernmental and External Affairs, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. She serves as the director of the Center for Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, and so she just does a whole lot. If I go through this whole thing, Lord Jesus, she's named in the top 10 of the most 100 influential faith leaders in New York State. So I had to drop that. So we're so glad to have her. And I'm going to ask that both of you would respond to what you've heard from our young men. And if you don't mind, I'm going to ask Pastor Magruder, who has also served as youth pastor here at Friendship West, and he's been recently promoted to serving as executive pastor of Friendship West, and did a whole lot of work to bring this together. I'm going to ask the three of you to respond to what you heard from these brothers who have been very honest.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pastor Haynes. This is, when you hear these stories, your heart gets heavy. And as a director, serving under an amazing secretary at HHS, we really do care deeply about this issue. And I think about my own upbringing in New York, and the thing that the barrier was for me was stigma. Growing up in Spanish Harlem, New York City, a brother addicted to heroin, in and out of prison, my other brother pushing the shopping cart down the street with matted hair and screaming to the top of his lungs, my father with medicine in the cabinet because of the PTSDs he was suffering from being a veteran, 3 sisters addicted to crack cocaine, et cetera, et cetera. So the list went on. So I was young and I was experiencing a lot of that. But the thing that really I felt was one of the most dangerous statements I lived by was what went on in the house stayed in the house. And some things needed to come out of the house. And because of that, and that's why I'm so happy that this is all coming out now, but what are we going to do now that we're hearing what we're hearing? How are we going to connect them to the needed services? You heard the amazing programs that we're offering, but there's also an opportunity for community to get involved and allowing us, even as parents and as guardians, to see them get the help that they need, to be better listeners, to be better supporters of where they are. And sometimes, we want to see them thrive and survive, but it is not our responsibility to tell a person when it's time to get up, because everybody's trauma is at a different level. But the best thing that we can do is to walk with them where they are until they can stand on their own. So we at HSS is really committed. At the center, what we do is we listen. We had an event called Can You Hear Me Now? Youth Having Their Say on mental health and suicide prevention. We listen. And as a result of listening, the next thing we did, we developed the first youth mental health toolkit for faith and community that was just hot off the press this week. We developed PSAs being presented by pastors and leaders with lived experience to address the stigma that is so prevalent in our neighborhood. We're going to continue to work, and we want you to know that we're here to support you. And every single one of us has had our own experiences, not maybe as deep as some of you here, but we're here to support you. We're here to empathize with you. We're here to make sure that we, not only as HSS, but as community, can continue to create that connectedness that is so needed. One of the stats says that those that experience connectedness as a young child, thrived even more so than those that did not. So being connected to family, being connected to friends, being connected to trusted messengers. And again, I want to encourage everyone that's here, every youth, 24/7, 988. It's a safe place. You don't have to disclose your name. You don't have to disclose your age. You can text it, as you heard today, recognizing that it is a confidential space. But for the rest of us, let's continue to bring this outside of the house. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Very good.
Thank you so much, Pastor Haynes, and really thank you, all of you, for sharing your very important stories to us. I want to let you know my son was in 7th grade and he attempted suicide. So I understand for a young man to be going through so much angst, and we were very lucky that we had amazing counselors that cared at school for him. We were there, we talked to him. So I think what is so important is the fact that you are here, you are speaking about it, and you also let everybody around you know that you can also be their mentors, and it's okay for them to talk and know that there's somebody there. We're here, we listen to you, and to have the secretary here, to have the assistant secretary here, everyone should know that as a federal government as a whole, this is a very important subject. There's no difference between health or mental health. There's no stigma to it. And just we're here, we hear you, and in the region, if my office and I can do anything for you to connect you. I know, Pastor Haynes, in this church, you do so many good, and you have Commissioner Price, who has the incredible group that looks into this. But to all the youth here, just know that what you feel matters, what you say matters, and we're here and we see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Pastor Magruder, and then after Pastor Magruder, Patrick LeBlanc is here, and he's working on his doctorate in ministry. And he also is an advocate for mental health. He's the founder, executive director of Bridging the Gap Foundation. You heard a whole lot, and you were on the front lines addressing this. So after Pastor Magruder, I really want you to talk about what should be our response to this. Pastor Magruder.
So thank you again, Pastor Haynes. And I want to give a special thanks to these young men who are on this panel. Can they get one more round of applause? Because it takes a lot of courage to get up here and have the kind of conversations that they have. I also want to highlight some of our young people who are here, who are a part of our community. I want to shout out Kimball High School, the Kimball High School crew who's in the house. And Principal Lou, thank you so much for bringing these young people here. And of course, we got the South Oak Cliff basketball team in the house, and Coach Mays and Coach Graham. Thank y'all so much for showing up today. And then I cannot forget Paul Quinn College, the Quinnite Nation is in the house. And so these young men who are on the stage and of course also in the audience represent not only our future, they represent right now. And they signal to us that we've got to take the crisis of black male mental health seriously, because black male obsolescence, or feeling as though you are obsolete, experiencing racism as a public health crisis but not having people take it seriously, experiencing economic disadvantage and disenfranchisement and having people push that off as something that's not consequential, as a sort of political talking point, and not having addressing it as something that is critical to national security is a problem. It's a real significant problem. So I think part of the issue is what we're doing right now, and I wish that we had more time, and I wish that the secretary didn't have to catch a plane, but I know he does. I know he does. But we got to create spaces where black men's voices can be heard in their authenticity and not necessarily in terms of the performance of masculinity. I think that's critical. I think you got to come to see and understand the fact that black men have hearts, that they love, that kindness is not weakness, that their rage is not the only source of their strength. And so when we create, and I know government can't do it alone, so that's why we're here at Friendship West. That's why we got the schools here. That's why the colleges are here, because we know that government alone can't fix the problem. But we also know that there is a critical role in terms of those who have the power to make policy and those who have the power to fund those policies to make sure that they are successful. So thank you, Mr. Secretary, Madam Assistant Secretary, for being here. But I think this is only the first step, as I said, in creating those spaces where black men's voices can be heard authentically.
Again, thank you, Pastor Haynes, for the opportunity, and for all the esteemed people on the stage, especially these young brothers. I think back to my high school days, and I graduated from high school in 1982 in Louisiana. And in 1982, I had a classmate that got castrated for dating a white girl. Not 62, 82. So, and we didn't get that, well, there are going to be counselors on campus tomorrow to help you guys. You need to go to school, shut your mouth, and do what you got to do to make it. I mean, so you're talking about what stays in the house? Look, we got to get you through high school. So came to Dallas and, you know, got connected with a lot of people here, became an advocate for mental health in about 2005 after starting work at several of the freestanding psych facilities and really seeing the difference of how and what goes on in those facilities. It's just not a conducive place for a lot of people, especially people of color, to be because of the stigmas, things that have had, the mistrust, all that kind of stuff. And so after doing that for a number of years, I decided that I needed to do something about it. So me and a group of my friends, we started talking about how can we change the game. And so what we did was we started talking about an organization that would bridge the gap. And we started doing that in 2019. We got our number from the IRS the day the nation shut down, March 13, 2020. So we got our number, now we're ready, but we have no way to raise money. So we started with education, Pastor Haynes. We got to change the narrative in our community, y'all. We got to change the narrative. Black people don't go to therapy. That's a lie. This is a white thing. That's a lie. Right. They're diagnosed on the north side depressed. They're diagnosed on the south side depressed. The difference is the accessibility to services. They have greater access to services than we do. Right. So what we did was, first of all, let's change the narrative. So we start meeting, and we still do. We have a meeting every month, nothing but black men. We call it Protect Your House, Protect Your Mind. And we want to make sure that these brothers can come to a safe, non-judgmental space so they can put it on the table. We always have a psychiatrist and a therapist present because if it comes clinical, they can handle it. All right, so we've been doing that since 2002. But then now we get, okay, Patrick, I realize I got a problem, but I want to go to health. But I can't pay $200 an hour. I can't pay $175 an hour. I can't do that. So that's when the foundation said we need to bridge that gap. And what we do is if you decide you want to go, we will fund 10 sessions for you to go get therapy. Wow. We'll do that. We have some culturally competent therapists. Dr. Stacy Alexander and Paul Quinn is one of them, where we can get you guys connected to somebody where you can go and get some therapy. I mean, and just working with people like the NIPA board and Commissioner Price. I mean, these people have made so many things available for us to do what we do, but it's just so much because the biggest need right now is for culturally competent therapists. I get calls all the time, Pastor. Patrick, I need a black man to talk to my son. But there are just not enough licensed therapists. And so we're trying to get, work with Paul Quinn and try to get more men into therapy so that they could be available to help, when the time comes. So that's a big need right now, but what we're trying to do is just bridge that gap so that if you want to go, we're going to do our best to try to get you. And a lot of times it's not even people that don't have insurance. I have insurance, but I can't pay this $5,000 deductible. Right. So, hey, Patrick, I need some help. And again, we do what we need to do to bridge that gap. So I want to thank you guys for the opportunity.
Man, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So, Mr. Secretary, Madam Assistant Secretary, if you don't mind, I still want to hear from our young brothers. And then at 4:05, in 5 minutes, we're going to take questions from the audience, okay? So, but I want to just ask the brothers, what would you recommend? You've heard us talk to you. I want to hear from you. What do you recommend about how we should empower young brothers to take their mental health seriously? What should we be doing to help you and help you help other young brothers take their mental health seriously? Y'all go at it as you want.
Again, my name is Caleb Hobbs. One thing that we need to focus on when we're talking about mental health is, like I said, our hearts, our minds, our souls. If we don't focus on that, then we will be lost in this world. This world is very cruel. It's a lot of things that I've seen, even though I'm 17, there's a lot of things I've seen that have changed my narrative about this world. And once you realize that, and once you actually start, like I said, reading your Bible, I'm going through Proverbs right now. So once you start reading through your Bible, you'll start understanding different situations, and you'll be able to apply that in your life. So that's all I have to say.
Well, man, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
So my recommendation is to practice what you preach, right? So if we're going to go online on TikTok or on Instagram and we're going to flaunt, we're going to show our masculinity, why don't we show our sensitive side as well? A lot of times we think that, it's macho. Hey, I'm going to therapy, man, that's weak. Like one of our panelists said, that's a white thing. I used to hear that all the time. I used to get bullied in school. So that was the main reason why I went to therapy. So just practicing what you preach. Like my brother said here, read your Bible, exercise. That's also a great way that you can impact your mental health, and you're okay. It's okay to be yourself. You don't have to be like anybody else. If you want to say, hey, I want to go to school, we don't always have to pick up a basketball or a football. We can be in politics. We can be in mental health. We can be doctors. We can be lawyers. So anything that you want to do, go for it. You can do anything that you put your mind to.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. D?
I feel like it's more of a foundational thing. I feel like if we build from the ground up, then build as young men. Growing up, a lot of people aren't really introduced to how mental health and what mental health is. So say for instance, something happens to you or anything of that nature, but it happens to you later on in life. You don't know how to cope with it because you wasn't really introduced to it growing up. So I say we need to work from the ground up, introduce it at a young age, and allow men to be vulnerable. I feel like it's hard for us to be vulnerable as men. We are brought up in this world to be carry this character that we can't show emotion or we can't express how we feel and who we are, and that's a lot. Like that's very draining, holding everything in. Because I've been there before where I don't say anything at all, and I just suck it up and keep going. Like it's okay to cry. It's okay to just express yourself because you're human. You have feelings. You have emotions. You have a heart. And for people to really just dictate how we feel and give us this narrative that we can't be who we are or who we want to be, then we're not gonna be who we want to be. And now, it's not many people. I'm a black man in a white world. That's how we feel. Like we don't feel like we have no power, no control, no nothing, only over our lives. That's why we feel like when we do walk out the house, we don't know if we're coming back home because we might be dead. It's like things of that nature that really hinders our mental. Somebody getting shot, somebody getting killed. Okay, well, that's me next. Things like that. We don't have any type of privilege. We don't have any type of say-so. I feel like that is the reason why a lot of us are the way we are.
Wow, that honesty and vulnerability is powerful. Powerlessness as a black male. We just saw what happened in Memphis, and that ain't the only place. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Sean, bless you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Dylan made a great point, especially talking about men being able to be vulnerable. I feel like it's important that we touch upon these realistic talking points because when we are talking about the perspective of young black men, the first thing you hear is, you're a man. And even with some of the conversations I had with other men, and I ask, okay, well, what does it mean to be a man? I usually hear the same answers: to provide and protect. And that gets pushed on us at a young age of you being able to get to this point of where you can provide and protect and nothing else. So you already have that pressure on not only being able to take care of yourself, but being able to take care of others and be able to provide for others. And you get to this place to where you're not really allowed to feel emotion. You're not really allowed to talk about it because it's a form of weakness. So when you sit here and you tell people how you feel or this bothered me or this is really messing with my feelings, people look at you and they're like, come on, man, like, really? Get over it. We hear that all the time. Be strong, get over it. You're thinking too much about it. You're giving it too much power. So now, this is why these suicide rates are high. These are why people are killing themselves, because they can't handle all that pressure. And now, on top of that, with not only just being a man, but being a black man, to where I have to be strong, I have to be masculine 24/7, I have to be able to provide and protect, but on top of that, I have to go out and walk outside these doors and be able to navigate my way without being shot, without possibly being beat by police, without probably getting killed by somebody that doesn't look like me because I look a certain way. Because I want to make one quick point real quick. I look at some of these young black men here, and I look at a lot of these young black men in the crowd. People might look at us and say, oh, you dress so well, you look so good, you speak so well. But when we walk outside these doors, the reality starts over again. We might not be wearing a suit. We might be wearing a regular t-shirt, we might be going to the gym, might be going to the park, might be going to see some family, and now that judgment starts over where we kind of look like that aggressive black man. Because maybe you're tall, maybe you're muscular, maybe you're short, maybe you're not tall, all these things, but at the end of the day, you're still black. And they already formed this idea that, you know what, you're aggressive, you might be a problem, you might be a threat to society. And people don't sit here and ask you what you do. They don't know if you're about to be a doctor. They don't know if you're a scientist. They don't care. Because all they see is, oh, it's a black man, and you know, oh, there goes the neighborhood, or oh, we don't know what type of trouble he can cause. So we need to be able to create these safe spaces where we can have these realistic conversations, have these realistic talking points with other people. But when we don't have that and everybody wants to fit us into this stereotype or make us appear a certain way, even though that's not who we are, we can't win.
Wow, thank you. Listen, I was told that we have cards that you can write your question on, so please give your card to
folks walking the house.
Okay, they're collecting them now. Sean Coulter, I'm sorry I did not see you. Please forgive me, okay? Sight line wasn't good. Sean Coulter, and I feel horrible, he is the director of our Be Made Whole Counseling Center here at Friendship West, and I didn't see him. And so I'm so glad that you're here. Sean, you've heard a whole lot today. Please give your feedback to what you've heard, especially from our young brothers.
Okay, well, thank you, Pastor Haynes and Dr. Magruder, Dr. Haynes. And I just want to say that it's really good to be in the midst of black men talking about their issues. I've worked 13 years in mental health, and I'm working on getting my LPC because there is a need for black therapists and accessibility. But I think with all of the things that each of these individuals have said so eloquently is there needs to be programs focusing on black males being a part of the conversation when it comes to mental health. We often focus on women and families and the children, but we forget that we also the black man needs assistance, whether that's young or old. We need those types of programs to assist our young people, our young kids, so it's okay to not just play sports, not just do one particular thing, but really more so to be comfortable in your own skin, and that it's okay to go to therapy and to seek help. You know, it's great to pray. I'm an advocate for praying and loving God, but we got to do more than just that. We have to do more than just coming to church or sweeping it under the rug. We talk about foundation, but the foundation is what you're seeing here this is the foundation. We are the foundation. So long ago, our ancestors didn't have those opportunities to go to therapy or figure it out or find themselves or create boundaries for themselves. They taught a lot of us how to survive. And now it's really up to us to be the foundation for our youth in finding ways to be okay with who we are. I also want to mention, too, we can't forget about different communities when we talk about people. There's a huge community with LGBTQA. We have to start making people a part of these conversations. We can't exclude them, y'all, because the young people are going to be the ones to carry the torch. So, you know, we still need older people, but we also need to make sure that our young people feel included. So that's all I have to say to that. But y'all remember that, because our young people need us, and it's going to get bad if we don't take action. It's going to get worse than what it is.
Right. It's already there. All right, so we have questions from the audience, I understand? Josh? Oh, Josh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay.
For to answer the question, I feel like a way to help is understanding that it's okay to vent to your friends. It's okay to talk to your friends. I feel like a lot of people now, they're scared to come to their friends because it might seem soft if you talk to your friends, but it's okay to because we're all black, we're all basically have the same problem. We're all going through the same things. So why not talk to people that understand you and understand where you're coming from? I feel like that's a way it can help with mental health.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, Josh. So the question came from the audience: what can the community members do to help now? And what is your need for us to help? What can the community members do to help you now? I guess this was to the young brothers. Okay. What can the community do now?
Again, my name is Caleb Hobbs. The community could, like they said, start implementing organizations that actually help us in a way, because we are dealing with it. It's evident that we're dealing with this in our society today. So it's simple. Just implement systems to help us, because we need help. And once we realize that we need help, we'll start realizing that we're going to make this world a better place. So that's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
I feel like we lack consistency. I feel like that consistency, that's the main thing we really lack. It's like we would start something, but we would never carry it. We would never finish it out. So I feel like that's the main thing, because if we want to feel safe, there has to be the same, you're not going to just open up right then and there. You have to build that. So I feel like a consistency. So we need more consistency.
Josh?
Honestly, just keeping the conversation alive, because when we leave places like this, we don't talk about it. It's not a thought, honestly. So if just keeping the conversation alive, just keeping it where it's a thought in our head that we have to take our mental health serious, because who's going to do it for us? Nobody. So when we learn to do it ourselves and keep it in our mental, and I feel like we'll see better results.
Thank you.
My whole thing with that is being able to be vulnerable. So it's okay that we're in a safe space here, but outside in the real world, it may not be safe. So still being able to show yourself and be able to be masculine in your own way, that's how we can change this, right? If we go out after this meeting and say, hey, I'm gonna go right back to doing what I was doing. I'm not gonna talk to anybody. I'm not gonna engage anybody. I'm not gonna ask you for questions. I'm not gonna reach out to the hotline. It won't go anywhere. So being able to be okay with being who you are, whether you're black, whether you're white, whoever, being able to say, hey, I'm a man, I'm confident, and I'm able to be myself. That's how you change that.
I also want to add on to that. I feel like words of affirmation is really big too. Just hearing those, I'm proud of you, and keep going, like being very motivational. Like my mom told me, I'm proud of you the other day, and it just like hearing that just really touched me. I just started crying while I was driving. She was like, I don't want to hear all that. I'm finna go to work. But no, it's like just having those connections and everything in that nature. So I would say motivation. I feel like we lack a lot of motivation too. I feel like we always competing against each other and not enough building with each other. I feel like that's why a lot of us end up dead, because we compete with each other instead of just uplifting one another.
And one more thing I want to say. I mean, we got so many inspirational black young fellas up here that we could start something and do something in this world to actually, help mental awareness. You know what I'm saying? We got my guy right here. We got him. We could do this, man. We can make a difference in this world, because mental health is something that I dealt with that almost killed me as well. You know what I'm saying? So focusing on that and making sure that it's a policy that we have in this world will make this world a better place.
I will go ahead and say, creating different groups, creating different spaces. And I think about how much we use social media every day. I mean, being on Twitter, being on Instagram, being on TikTok. If we can use it for whatever reasons, I mean, we can actually use this to create these groups and create these spaces and inform people on, hey, you know, we're having a session tonight where we're just sitting down and we're talking just to check on people, or, hey, you know, we're sitting down and having a session talking about this specific topic. And I feel like that would create more reach to different people, because sometimes you can't just wait for people to come to you. You got to go to people. So if we can create these spaces and we can create groups and say, you know what, we're going to do a thing in South Dallas where we'll say people from all college students come through, or I would say anybody in high school come through. So things like that. That would actually help people out, because now they're not feeling like I actually got to sit here and actively search for help. Somebody's actually trying and they care enough to put it out there for other people to join. So I think it's important to just create these groups, have these spaces to help people, especially since we got to go through all the things we go through just to get a little bit of help, or just to get a little bit of consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're getting ready to wrap it, but I want to say, number one, thank you to Region 6 for our leadership. We thank you so much. Thank you to all of the outstanding young men on the panel for blessing us with your insights, your vulnerability, your power. You've blessed us greatly. Thank you so much to all of you who work with those who find themselves directly impacted. You have blessed us tremendously. Veronica Moore, you are a gift to all of us. We thank you so much for your leadership and for all that you share. And I got to go home and be good when I get home. And my wife says she wants to say something right quick. So Deb, say it real quick. And this way I can go home and everything will be good.
And Pastor, as soon as we finish, we're going to take a group photo. I know the secretary has to go.
Okay.
So Chris is going to take it from the choir stand.
Okay.
So we want to get the audience as well as the panelists in one picture if we can.
Okay. And I thank Pastor David Malcolm Magruder. He did a phenomenal job of orchestrating and choreographing all of this.
Thank you, Reverend Haynes, and thank you to the Secretary and Assistant Secretary and you phenomenal young men. So proud of you. First of all, I just want to remind you, even though this has a lot of layers, a basic layer is what you put in your body has a lot to do with your mind. So how you eat, the sugar, the junk food that they want you to eat is killing us mentally and physically. So mind what you put in your body. Go back to your vegetables and your fruits and your water. I care about you, and I want you to care about yourself. Thank you.
That was good. That was good, huh? I need y'all to say that was good. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we're going to have the closing comments from our secretary and assistant secretary. Thank you all for coming. Oh, thank you all for coming.
Well, this is more than I expected, because I'm accustomed to hearing from professionals and people with big titles, but I think it's a blessing when you can hear from the future leaders of this country. And I think they have proven that they already are leaders in this country. I hope you will follow through. I hope you won't waste time. We need you. I hope some of you will consider even coming into this profession to try to help others who you know could use the services of someone who cares. I'm almost going to end Pastor Haynes the way I started. And that is because I honestly believe that if I had said to our team at the Department of Health and Human Services, let's find out what people are thinking, see if they can come and meet with me, I suspect none of these young men would have gone to Washington, D.C. to be able to express themselves so eloquently. And so, as I said before, the Department of Health and Human Services is going to come to you where you are, because I suspect you have a lot to say. And I think I heard more than I expected. Young men who are vulnerable to say about something that they're not expected to talk about. That is powerful, because we don't get it enough. And I hope what that does is inspires others like you to be very candid about this, because we need to hear it. I think we all grew up, you suck it up. You keep it in because it's not something you talk about. It's the stigma. And we got to get rid of that stigma, especially in communities of color, because we don't have enough resources to begin with to have the luxury to hold it in. And so I hope that we will all count this as a blessing that we had young men who are willing to take to the stage and talk about where they think they might be a little vulnerable, and then find out that they are extremely strong. And so I am blessed to be able to experience this, but I am redoubled in my faith and commitment that the best way to solve these issues is to go where folks are instead of wait for them to come to us. And so thank you for letting me come to you this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say again, thank you for having us. I so want to thank the young men that shared. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your, I would say, even creative ideas around what's going to make a difference. I love what you said around, we can do this. We can start something that other folks would come to. I agree. I think you certainly can, and see us as a support in terms of resources or information or anything you would need to get something like that started. But this was truly a gift to be able to be here and to share this space with you all. And I just want to say know that I am committed, certainly SAMHSA and HHS, we are committed to continue to have conversations and discussions like this, but then also to take it back and to think about, what now, how can we put this into policy and program and pieces that are going to make a difference. So again, thank you so much for the sharing. And I have to say also, I am proud. I am proud of you all for breaking the stereotype, for being willing to share your vulnerability and share your experiences in ways that give people hope and in ways that can truly make a difference. I know that I'm going to be certainly taking this conversation back. And so again, I just feel like this was such a gift to be able to be here. And so thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Policies, programs, access to services. We need to come south. Thank you so much. All right.
Pastor, if we can just get a real quick photo, we're going to make the panel. Please stand on this X mark. We're going to try to do this really, really fast. The DC team has been very nice to me, and I want to keep it that way. So if you all would stand, if you want to be in the picture, at least, we want y'all to stand. We're going to try to get one photo really, really quickly.